Good evening, Life Groups. It's good to be with you tonight. We're continuing our journey on faith, and really this is a crucially important journey because you're part of the Christian faith. It's not the Christian feel or the Christian think, it's the Christian faith. And the bedrock of the Christian faith is your personal, intimate faith in Jesus Christ. What are you trusting Him for, and how do you journey through life with Him? Now, faith is pretty easy when everything's going well, when you've got money in the bank, you've got good relationships, work's going well. What do you do when stuff starts to go wrong, when you've got obstacles in life, stuff that's frustrating you? And how you relate to those is extremely important because we need to be growing in faith. And so when you respond to faith to obstacles, you grow in faith and your relationship with Jesus grows. But when you don't respond in faith, when you respond with fear or you just get frustrated or you just get angry or bitter or whatever it is, you actually stagnate and you don't grow as a person. So today I'm really going to be speaking to you about how to grow in your faith, how to develop a fight plan or a game plan. The Apostle Paul tells Timothy, fight the good fight of faith. And today we're going to talk about developing a fight plan and how to fight for faith. I remember a time when I was dealing with some stuff in work where, to be honest, I felt quite overwhelmed. The obstacles I was facing seemed significant. I didn't really have a game plan. I didn't know how to lead through them. And I remember just kind of getting stuck and frustrated. And I went to dinner with my wife to friends of ours. They're probably 20 years our senior. And I was just talking through the circumstances I was going through with them. And to be honest, I was having a bit of a whine. I was just telling them about everything that was hard and everything that was wrong and why it was so frustrating and this obstacle and that obstacle. And I came home from that evening and I was at home and it's just like something didn't sit right in my spirit. I just felt uneasy. And so I went and spent some time with God and I said, God, why do I just feel uneasy? And God just said to me so clearly, He said, you just confessed that you couldn't do it and that you can't walk through this thing. And basically what was coming out of my mouth was unbelief. On the one hand, I was saying, hey, I believe God, I'm trusting Him. But what was coming out of my mouth was a description of everything that was wrong with the situation and not the fact that God was with me and how to walk in that circumstance in faith. So I developed a bit of a fight plan, and really that fight plan followed Philippians chapter 4, verse 4 to 8, the series that we've been walking through. And I'm going to be reading some of those verses and then talking about the fight plan. And you can be thinking about something you're facing right now. Think about what's coming out your mouth, what plays around in your head. Is it a principle of faith, or is it fear, frustration, anger, whatever it is? And this is how to fight for faith. So Philippians verse 4 says, always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. There's always reason to rejoice in God. There's always something to be thankful for. And when you choose joy and you rejoice and you're thankful for what He's done in your life, it's amazing how quickly faith starts to build. Verse 6 says this, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Now, telling a guy not to worry in itself is pretty hard. Like when you're really stressed out and someone says, oh, don't stress, you're like, oh, that's brilliant. Never thought about that before. But here's a real practical way not to worry. Paul says, instead, pray about everything. And tell God about what you need. And then he doesn't stop there. He says, thank Him for all He's done. So what happens when we confess, God, here's my need, we're still in that place of fighting for faith. But when we start to actually thank Him for what He's done, what we're doing is we're reminding ourselves about all the times in our life God's come through for us. And so in my circumstance, I start choose joy, and then I start going, God, this is what I need from you. God, I need for you to come through for me in this area, in this area, in this area. And then I say stuff like this, and God, I thank you so much that I've seen you come through for me in places like this 100 times before. I thank you that you've always with me. I thank you that you promise you'll never leave me. And I'd remind myself about specific instances where I came against challenges and God came through for me. And in a sense, I was building faith. I was thanking Him for the times He showed Himself to be faithful. Then verse 7 says this, then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. So often we start at this point. We want the peace up front. God, give me peace, give me peace. But Paul says, rejoice, make your needs known to God, and then thank Him, and then peace comes. And so peace is the product of a whole bunch of other choices we make to come to God in faith. And as that peace starts to come, we begin to realize really that God's with us. And peace is what everyone wants. Everyone in the world wants peace, but as believers, with a loving Father who walks with us through life, we have every reason to have that peace. And verse 8 says this, and now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing, Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about these things that are excellent and worthy of praise. What are you thinking about? And maybe you just need to do a little bit of a thought audit, like what's actually going through your mind? Because the reality is you have a choice about what you allow to go through your mind. You get to change the way you think. And the way you change the way you think is exactly what I just said. You rejoice in God. You remind yourself about times God's come through for you. And you choose to think on God and the honorable, good things, noble things that He's done. Verse 9 says this, and I don't think you've looked at this yet in this life group series. It says, keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything from you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. And Paul's asking them to practice the right kinds of things. And we don't often think of the Christian life as practice. That you keep practicing the right kind of things and you end up growing in God. And so what are you practicing? Because let me tell you, if you're practicing complaining about your situation, acting in unbelief, confessing that you can't do it, confessing that it's too hard for you, having a good whine about it, or trying to tell your friends, hey, this is so hard, this is so hard, this is so hard. It's fine to have friends to support you, but at some point you need to start practicing faith. And that's exactly how you fight for faith, how I just explained. With joy, make your needs known to God, and start thanking Him for what He's already done. Those are practices that we implement on a regular basis in our Christian lives, and it builds faith. And so you need to be asking yourself, what are the kind of things that I'm practicing, and how do I start fighting for faith? This is called a fight plan. And when you've got a fight plan, you actually know, this is what I'm trusting God with. And you can think about a situation in your work, or some situation you're facing in your life. Frame it as a faith challenge. What am I trusting God? How much are asking God to come through for me in this area of my life? And what that does is it takes your eyes off the problem and puts your eyes on Jesus, and you know that God's going to be there for you and walk you through that situation. Enjoy discussing this stuff in your group this week.